The crystal chandelier cast fractured light across the mahogany table, illuminating a meal prepared for one. Marcus Chen had everything money could buy: a penthouse overlooking the city, a collection of vintage cars, investments that multiplied while he slept, yet every evening he sat alone in devastating silence. Not the peaceful kind of silence that invites reflection, but the isolating, suffocating silence that had been his constant companion since childhood. At 42, he had learned to read the world through gestures, vibrations, and the careful study of lips. He had built an empire without hearing a single word of praise or criticism. But success, he discovered, was a cold lover. It warmed nothing inside him. That Thursday evening in November started like every other. Marcus sat at the head of his dining table, a plate of herb-crusted salmon growing cold before him. He wasn't hungry. He never was anymore. The walls of his penthouse were decorated with awards and framed magazine covers bearing his face, but they might as well have been blank. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city pulsed with life he couldn't hear. Cars honking, people laughing, music drifting from open windows. He watched it all like a documentary playing without sound. Rosa Martinez pushed her cleaning cart through the service entrance at 7:30, just as she had every Thursday for the past 6 months. She was running late, her uniform slightly wrinkled, her dark hair escaping from its bun. At 28, she carried the weight of the world in the shadows under her eyes. Strapped to her chest in a worn baby carrier was 8-month-old Sofia, her daughter, her entire universe. The babysitter had canceled last minute, and Rosa couldn't afford to miss a shift. Not this one. Not any of them. She had seen Mr. Chen from a distance during her previous visits. A tall, broad-shouldered man who moved through his apartment like a ghost haunting his own life. The other cleaning staff whispered about him. The millionaire who never spoke. The recluse who left notes instead of instructions. Rosa had been warned not to disturb him, to work quickly and quietly, to make herself invisible. It was a skill she had perfected. Over years of cleaning, homes where she was meant to be, neither seen nor heard. But tonight visibility found her anyway. Marcus noticed them immediately. The young woman with the baby, secured against her chest, moved through his kitchen with efficient, careful movements. He should have been irritated. He had specified he didn't want anyone cleaning while he was home. Yet something about the way she worked, the gentle swaying motion she made as she wiped down counters, the periodic glances she cast downward to check on the sleeping infant, held his attention. Rosa felt his eyes on her and her stomach tightened with anxiety. She worked faster, trying to finish the kitchen so she could move to other rooms. Sofia stirred against her chest, making the small grunting sounds that usually preceded crying. Please, not now, Rosa thought desperately. Mr. Chen was watching, and she couldn't afford to be seen as unprofessional. As a mother who brought her problems to work, she needed this job. She needed all 3 of her jobs. Then Sofia began to cry. Not the gentle fussing of a sleepy baby, but the full-throated wail of discomfort. Rosa's hands trembled as she tried to bounce and soothe her while simultaneously cleaning, her face burning with embarrassment. She fumbled in her bag for a bottle, her movements jerky with panic. Marcus stood abruptly. The woman's face had transformed into a mask of barely contained distress, and though he couldn't hear the baby's cries, he could see the infant's face reddening, the tiny mouth open in obvious distress. He could feel the vibrations of sound in the air, the frequency of crying that must have been piercing. The woman was backing toward the door. Mouthing apologies he could partially read. I'm sorry, I'll go." And something in his chest cracked open. He raised his hand, palm out, in a gesture that transcended language. "Wait." Rosa froze. Mr. Chen was approaching, and her mind raced with worst-case scenarios. She'd be fired, reported, she'd lose everything. But when he stopped a respectful distance away, his face held no anger. Instead, he was looking at Sofia with an expression Rosa couldn't quite identify. Curiosity, longing, something deeper and more complicated? Marcus pointed to the baby, then to himself, then made a rocking motion with his arms. He was asking, actually asking, not demanding, if he could hold her. Rosa's maternal instincts warred with desperation and something else. Something in this strange man's eyes that looked almost like hope. She lifted Sofia from the carrier with shaking hands and placed her in Marcus's arms. The millionaire adjusted his hold with unexpected gentleness, supporting the baby's head, cradling her against his chest. And then something remarkable happened. Sofia stopped crying. Her tiny hand reached up and touched Marcus's face, and her eyes, those wide, wondering baby eyes, locked onto his. She made a sound, a coo of contentment, and Marcus felt it against his chest more than heard it. The baby's fingers traced his jaw, his lips, exploring his face with the fearless curiosity of the very young. Then Sofia smiled, a gummy, radiant smile that seemed to light up the sterile penthouse. Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years, a vibration of pure joy, emanating not from outside but from within. The baby didn't care that he couldn't hear. She didn't know he was a millionaire, or that he was deaf, or that he ate dinner alone every night. She only knew that these were arms that held her gently, that this was a face worth smiling at, that this moment was enough. A tear rolled down Marcus's cheek before he could stop it. Then another. Rosa watched this powerful man cry while holding her daughter, and her own eyes filled. She understood in that instant the profound loneliness that must fill this beautiful, empty apartment. All the money in the world, and no one to smile at him the way Sofia was smiling now. Marcus looked up at Rosa, and without words, something passed between them. A recognition, a understanding of what it meant to be on the outside looking in. He had been shut out by his deafness. She had been made invisible by her poverty. Both of them moved through a world that didn't quite see them, didn't quite make space for them. Carefully, Marcus handed Sofia back to her mother. Then he did something he hadn't done in months. He smiled. Really smiled. He pointed to Rosa, then to a chair, then made an eating gesture. He was inviting her to join him for dinner. Rosa shook her head automatically, the refusal instinctive. You didn't sit at the table with the people you worked for. You didn't cross that line. But Marcus was already moving, pulling out a chair, his expression so earnestly hopeful that she found herself sitting down. Sofia nestled in her arms. Marcus brought out the untouched salmon, still warm in the kitchen, and prepared a second plate. He poured water into crystal glasses worth more than Rosa's monthly rent. He sat down across from her, and for the first time in years, his dining table held more than one person. Rosa watched him, uncertain, until he began to eat, nodding encouragement at her. The meal was awkward at first. Rosa tried to eat one-handed while holding Sofia. Marcus noticed and stood again, returning with cushions that he arranged on the chair beside Rosa, creating a safe nest where Sofia could lie and look around while her mother ate. The gesture was clumsy but thoughtful, and Rosa felt tears prick her eyes again. As they ate, Marcus began to sign. Rosa didn't know sign language, but she understood from context that he was asking about her, about Sofia. She spoke slowly, carefully, exaggerating her words so he could read her lips. She told him about working 3 jobs, about Sofia's father who had left before she was born, about her dreams of finishing her education degree one day, maybe, if she could ever save enough. Marcus listened with an intensity that made her feel, for the first time in a long time, like her story mattered. When the meal ended, Marcus disappeared into his study and returned with a card. On it, he had written, "I need help if you're interested." Not a cleaning lady, a friend. Someone to have dinner with, someone who doesn't mind silence. I will pay you well whatever you need. To simply share meals with me 3 times a week. And please bring Sofia. She has a gift I didn't know I was missing. Rosa read the words twice, 3 times. She looked at this man who had everything, yet had been starving for the simple gift her daughter had given so freely. The gift of seeing him as fully human, worthy of a smile worth reaching toward. She thought about bills and daycare and night classes that seemed forever out of reach. But more than that, she thought about the expression on Marcus's face when Sofia had touched him, the way loneliness recognized loneliness. Yes, she said, knowing he could read the word on her lips. Yes. 3 months later, Marcus's dining table was no longer set for one. Rosa and Sofia joined him every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday evening. Marcus taught Rosa and Sofia sign language, and they taught him what it felt like to be part of a family. He paid Rosa enough that she quit her other 2 jobs and enrolled in online classes. He became Uncle Marcus to Sofia, the man who bought her first shoes, who baby-proofed his penthouse, who felt her laughter as vibrations against his chest. on Sofia's first birthday, as Marcus felt the rumble of her giggling while she smashed her cake, he realized that the greatest fortune he'd ever earned couldn't be measured in dollars. It was measured in baby handprints on his designer suits, in shared meals, in being seen, truly seen, by people who asked nothing of him except to show up, to be present, to be human. Sometimes, he thought, the unthinkable isn't grand or dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as a baby's smile bridging the gap between two worlds, reminding us that beneath all our differences, our wealth or poverty, our abilities or disabilities, our loneliness or connections, we're all just hungry for the same thing: to matter to someone, to be worthy of reaching toward, to know that our silence can be filled not with words but with presence. And in that knowing, Marcus Chen finally found what money could never buy: the sound of home, felt rather than heard, but more real than anything he'd ever known.